I'm John Batchelor. Larry Kudlow, my colleague and co-host of Kudlow Reports, is here. Larry, two late-breaking items, Larry, that seem very significant because of your conversation with the S&P rating agency. One, the federal government is saying right now that it can delay default from August 2nd, perhaps until August 10th, because of revenue coming in that was not predicted or that was predicted and now can be used to extend its check writing. And the other item is that John Boehner and the House of Representatives have delayed the vote that was originally scheduled for Wednesday, the 27th, till Thursday, the 28th, or as late as Friday, the 29th, as they rescore the Boehner plan. Your conversation with the S&P, Larry, that's a ratings agency. My understanding, S&P, Moody's, and Fitch, all three are looking grimly at the U.S. debt regardless of the Boehner plan or the resolution or August 2nd. Is that correct?
Well, not exactly. I mean, I spoke with David Beers, who's the head of the Sovereign Debt Committee. That's a global agency. And by the way, with a very good track record. They were not involved in the misses for subprime mortgages or Alt-A or what have you. This very solid group. Anyway, Beers, I asked him that question directly, and he didn't want to pass a major pronouncement. But he said they are looking at all these plans, and he said, we'll see how they come out. Now, in the past, and they put the U.S. on the watch list about 10 days ago, in the past, there have been hints that a $4 trillion debt reduction package is what the raters wanted. Now, I cannot speak particularly for Fitch's, but Moody's and S&P have talked about $4 trillion. Beers, tonight, I asked him about $3 trillion. If you look at the Boehner plan, and if you look at the Harry Reid plan, and even the misbegotten Obama plan, they sort of revolve around $3 trillion, okay, putting aside the details. And so I said, is that sufficient to prevent a downgrade? And he didn't want to say. He would only say that they were looking at everything and would make a decision next week when they had final product. His basic point is what the rating agencies want from the United States is a plan that will reduce the debt to GDP ratio. That is presently closing in on 70%, and the Congressional Budget Office is estimating that it will reach 90 to 100% in 10 years. And it's that upward trend, which started a few years ago, that they find troubling. And his second point to me was, in other AAA-rated countries, Germany, France, Britain, Canada, they all came up with plans to bring the debt on a lower trajectory, and that the United States is really the only major AAA that has not done that. And so that's the problem they have. We are underperforming our peers. We have not taken the hard steps to lower the debt outlook. And, of course, basically that means lower spending. So I can't say that, he would accept or reject. A default is really kind of off the table because we'll have the revenues to pay the interest expense. Okay, we know that. But, just any package won't work. It's got to be something that gets that debt trajectory down as a share of overall GDP. And incidentally, our conversation before about weak GDP makes it harder. You could grow the denominator, the GDP, but we're not. So it's all focused on the numerator, which is the federal debt, and that's the problem. And we're not going to know until we see what the final deal looks like. And right now, we're not even close to a deal.
We've had nothing but weak numbers these last weeks. April was not strong. May was surprisingly weak. And June, we had a bunch of negative reports. You had a weak housing number today. That's not a surprise. But these numbers, Larry, don't add up to a lot of strength on Friday at 8:30 in the morning, whatever it is. And at this point, is that going to be a factor for S&P when they see that GDP come in so low that there is no possibility of us getting out of this for the next a couple of years?
Well, not really. I mean, he wants to see what the policy modifications are. I mean, listen, John, weeks and weeks ago, I told you these numbers were terrible.
Yes.
You said, oh, you're turning pessimistic. I said, I'm just looking at the numbers. But I don't think the report on Friday will influence the S&P. They want to see what the policies are with respect to both spending and revenues. And they tend to rank spending and revenues equally. See, they would say that a revenue increase is just as good as a spending cut. I would not say that. I say tax hikes will damage the economy and will not reduce the debt and may increase the debt because we'll wind up spending more and financing more spending. So I think there's an issue there. But this is a pretty sober guy, David Beers, and he didn't want to put any cards on the table. He just said, here's what we want, and we're going to look at everything. If I had to guess, we are heading for a downgrade, a small downgrade, a very small.
It'll be a big headline, Larry.
You know, it'll be a huge headline, and it will cause some turmoil in the financial markets. It's not going to be the end of the world. But I would say, look, S&P itself, about 10 days ago, said it was about 50-50. And I think it's still about 50-50. Now, if Congress would sober up, and if Harry Reid can use his plan, which is a great improvement from Obama's. Reid says, no taxes, let's cut spending. I think they need to tighten up Reid's spending.
We'll find Steve Moore of the Wall Street Journal next, and we'll talk to him about Harry Reid's plan. Larry Kudlow, CNBC's Kudlow Reports and Kudlow Radio on the Weekend. I'm John Batchelor.